Sorry for the slight delay. Just in case you're wondering, you're in the right talk. This is hiring from abroad, legal considerations, and the expat experience for recruiters. If you want to put something in the chat, I think it's a great idea to add your LinkedIn profile to the chat. And now I just need to find how I can actually move the slides. Because I think, okay. Diana, if anybody needs anything from the chat, I need to go into a different view to be able to move the slides.
Sure, anyone can write something in the chat, I'll see it, and then at the appropriate moment, I'll interject and
awesome. So I'm not going to see you all. Change your name to your real name if you want to be seen on screen. Turn on the camera if you want to, you don't have to. If you want to talk, please unmute yourself to speak. That's preferable to a chat message. And this workshop will be recorded, so we will have the recording. And a good idea would also be to follow us on LinkedIn right away. Then later I will follow back. So I'm Angela Weinberg on LinkedIn, and then you also have Diana Kübler. And please, if you want to email us, you can win a coaching voucher with me, a coaching session of 90 minutes. Then you can also get access to the slides and additional resources by emailing Diana at globalpeopletransitions.com. Diana, you can put that also in the chat so people can use it, and they can maybe you can also put our both LinkedIn profiles in the chat.
Will do.
So we know who has been connecting with us, and then you also network amongst each other. So what I'm going to talk about today are 5 reasons and 5 trends, the expat experience model, pain points and process of expats moving to Germany, also Switzerland, it's very similar, and global mobility coaching. 5 reasons for this talk. So we have in mobility 5 trends at the moment, and I will go into every trend in a bit more detail in a second. The first trend is mobility has become a lifestyle. We see international transfers and hires from other countries, so direct hires, as the most prevalent assignment type right now. In the past, mobility mainly dealt with international assignments, but now we also have a lot of transfers and hires. Then let me just move forward. So in comparison to STA and LTA, long-term and short-term assignments. Instead of international assignments, many companies now use international transfers to accommodate international moves within their organizations. And I think you all know that's a local-to-local transfer. This creates friction because in our classical HR organizations, local HR and recruiters support the expats, and they do not always understand the expat experience and the needs of expat spouses. And this is one major reason why I wanted to talk to you today. Then there's another trend, and that means we have coaching platforms, not only for global mobility, but also for classical learning and development, expat coaching. Coaching is now a commodity for everyone. So there are large platforms, for example, Coach Hub, Ezra, and BetterUp, and they took a large share of the executive and leadership coaching space since 2020. There's a shift from business to business to client. So we are moving towards private clients when it comes to expat coaching. And because of the commoditization of coaching, the hourly rates went down from about $350 to about $100. So if you want to become an expat or global mobility coach, that's something you need to be aware of. We traditionally, we have large companies in the market, so-called relocation management companies and Big 4 consulting firms. So big companies usually work with these big providers. But Also, increasingly, we have digital disruptors and boutique companies, and they become more relevant in our overall global mobility ecosystem. Then there is something called host country intercultural training and expat career support. And also these kind of services are now often provided through platforms. You might have heard of Expat Global. The third trend, AI will replace the traditional advice-based coaching and also consulting. So the need for advice-based coaching will go down because we will have more artificial intelligence. One example, if you are going on a business trip, I just recently tested this business trip to China or the US, you can now ask ChatGPT to provide you a wonderful layout, summary of all the things that you need to know about, how to apply for a business visa, but also cultural etiquette and customs. This used to be a quality that was provided by consultants or coaches, and now ChatGPT can generate a lot of these things for you. So for quick fixes and brainstorming, clients will turn to generative AI. And coaches will need to be even better and have more experience to deal with complex and diverse issues. And that's a relevant information for recruiters because you will probably speak to more experienced coaches who can support you in your recruiting process. Knowledge building can be enhanced through guided content, and coaches offering human touch and belonging will win within the loneliness epidemic. What is that? Loneliness epidemic is a trend at the moment that is really important to know. We have a global trend that people are singularizing and feeling a lot more lonely than they used to. Then you're all aware we have 4 generations at work. They have differing needs. Many of you have probably heard a lot about Generation Z and what they need, and for example, in terms of services. But in our experience, we also have to adhere, for example, to Generation Y, the millennials, and Generation X. For example, we have many expats who return from long assignments after 20 years to their home countries, like Germany or Switzerland, and they need support in career options, career choices. We have also many clients in our company who have lost their job after about 20 years of a corporate career, and also they need our support. Then trend number 5, geopolitical uncertainty, the world in chaos. Probably not only since the global pandemic, maybe since September 11th, 2001. We have been in GlobalMobility crisis managers and learned to deal with the geopolitical uncertainty. One thing I mentioned recently is that because of that uncertainty and the war, for example, in Ukraine, many companies now resource jobs that they had outsourced previously to Eastern Europe, for example, back to Germany or back to Switzerland, which creates more jobs and also more need for highly qualified professionals. So, when you think about immigration into the DACH region, the Germany, Austria, Switzerland, what we can see when we talk about corporate mobility is that the overall blue cards, for example, they haven't increased that much, but the stock of employment residence titles, that has increased. There's also a net migration that you need to keep in your mind. Not only do a lot of people move to Germany and Switzerland, we also have a lot of people leaving those countries. So in order to reduce the people who are moving away and keep them in the country, we need to provide them a great expat experience. And we need to make sure that they're integrated and that their families feel happy. And despite the political polarization, Germany continues to attract skilled international talent. We hear from expats from India, Pakistan, China, and also the EU countries, but also from the US now, for example, that's a new trend, that they would love to come to Germany for work. So in 2023, Germany issued around 55,000 EU blue cards. The trend is going up. I also have seen signs that the job market is slowly recovering. So there's a slightly optimistic outlook for next year. But that would also then mean that we need to hire more from abroad. Yeah, so more direct hires. And every recruiter knows that hiring is generally not that easy. So hiring from another country has more complexity. Now, maybe you've seen this 4C model when you think about global mobility right now. If you work in HR or recruiting, or if you're a global mobility manager, maybe you think about compliance and cost as important parts of global mobility. But we're also in the business of career. The career is a very important aspect of an expat's global mobility needs. So we have to also take care of their career needs. And we also have a care task towards our employees. So we have a duty of care. And in my lectures and in my business, we usually focus a bit more on the career and care part. You can ask me questions about compliance as well, but that might not be the most important aspect of global mobility that we're focusing on in our work at Global People Transitions. So what is the expat experience? Was quite happy to hear today in already 2 sessions about user experience, and that we could all get a bit more inspiration from user experience design, because that's exactly what I've been working on with the expat experience model. We have defined 5 elements of the expat experience. And it's from different angles that I look at this. So there's the more academic cultural adjustment process, which is usually also called a acculturation process. And there's a lot of research done on that part of the expat experience. Then from a global mobility manager perspective, we often notice that there is a gap. So global mobility managers, they're very much involved in the expat in the decision phase. And then they also work with the expat until they arrive in the new country, until they're a little bit settled, maybe the first 90 days. But as soon as that is over, the global mobility manager needs to take care of other cases, of other tasks. So there is often a communication gap right in the moment when the expat and expat partner go through the culture shock or the cultural adjustment, and the mood is the lowest. Then there's a personal learning journey. Every expat grows normally when they go to another country. Some people leave their home for the first time. They're alone for the first time. They learn to cope with things they never had to cope with before. So it's a lot of little things that add up to big learning. So that's another element. And then we have the classical, what we often talk about when we talk about expat experience, the services that vendors provide, third parties provide, the tax advisor, the immigration provider, the social security expert, or the moving company. Yeah, we often, when we talk about expat experience, that's what we think about. It's like the user experience. So what are the services that the expats receive at touch points? And then there's also a deep psychology aspect of the expat experience that I would call the deeper experience. It's about the intercultural learning process, and also about how we are confronted with elements of ourselves that we might not like as much in the host culture and the people of the host culture. And maybe this gives us a chance to integrate part of our psychology, parts of ourselves that we haven't integrated yet. That's what we call the deeper experience. And Carl Gustav Jung famous Swiss psychologist from over 100 years ago would call it that we're handling and learning to live with our shadow. One of my lectures is all about the expat experience. It's a half-day lecture, and what we are going to discuss in 2 slides here, that's a half-day lecture normally. So just accept that I'm going to shorten this. But what I think, after many, many years of coaching expats, working with over 500 expats, that we can enhance the expat experience, bring in more human touch through digitalization, so the R that you see there, that's for our RockMe app, and ongoing coaching through the process. Then we will have accelerated cultural adjustment, we will have a higher performance and more inclusive leadership, and also a more reflected learning journey. Through coaching, we also achieve a deeper insight into the experience and personal growth. In addition, this cup here, that's significant for the tech solution that I'm waiting for. I call it the holy grail of technology, of global mobility. It's like the ring that rules them all, the technology that combines all the ecosystems, the vendor, etc. Everybody, so that we can all work with one system. And then sustainable choices refers to more environmentally friendly choices. For example, not to offer home leave anymore to the expats, so that we have more less of a carbon footprint. And all of that is that's the enhanced expat experience with expatriate success and long-term retention of the expats in our organization instead of expatriate failure and high turnover or high attrition, which is a reality in many companies today. And if you are interested in the future of work, most of the discussion at the moment is about making the future of work based on client experience. Yeah, so we talk a lot about employee experience. One of the keynote speakers said today, yeah, we've been working on this for 20 years. We're not really moving forward. We're talking about employee experience, but we haven't really managed to improve that. But also, when you think about organizations, HR organizations, they all need to be based on employee experience and client experience going forward. And in order to do that, you come up with customer journeys, you change your point of view, you look into the mirror, and instead of looking at this process from an HR or recruiting perspective, you take the position of an avatar and you write down their story. And the avatar would be, for example, one of my favorite expats. Her name is Aisha. She's from Mumbai, mom of 2, and also she's a leader. And she's moving from Mumbai to Paris or Amsterdam. And we need to think about how we can support Aisha the best. And how do we do that? We identify the pain points of our avatar. Pain points, here you have 15, for example, for living in Germany. One would be the immigration process. You would think of the education of children, the spouse career is interrupted, finding housing, the settling in administration, these kind of things, medical insurance, learning the host country native languages, even if you work in English, old age pension in the home country or in other systems. These are the typical pain points for expats for living in Germany. And we also have pain points for working in Germany. For example, there might be a bit more hierarchy and formality than what they're used to. There is a hidden code and a circle of trust. How do I enter this circle of trust in the organization if I come from another country? Then Germans can be direct. So the directness, if you come in as a newbie from another country, that often involves a loss of face for you. Also, Germans are really good at compartmentalization, yeah, so they separate work and life. And you might not be in the life compartment for them. So they just work with you, but then after 5 o'clock you have no friends. That could be a problem for Aisha. Then there's perfectionism about the language. If you speak the language with an accent or you make grammatical errors, maybe you're not taken seriously in talks or even on stage or in meetings. Yeah, so there's a lot of things they need to learn when they come here, but it's also partially hard. It's a harsh environment to adjust and to learn the same. By the way, it's very similar to Switzerland, so I'm not saying it's just a German thing. The Swiss aren't better. Then there are some expectations of being self-reliant and self-sufficient. Very often managers are less directive than what these employees are used to. So they might not know what to do, and then they don't dare to ask because of cultural differences. There are microaggressions. Sometimes there is no psychological safety. Sometimes it could be improved. Then we often have female clients, and they tell me that they work with male managers and they feel threatened by a female client's competence. Can also be true for the same culture. Doesn't even have to be cross-cultural. German humor is hard to grasp. Why? Because it involves context and irony and, having grown up in a certain historical context. Not even the Swiss Germans understand High German humor. So how can you expect a foreigner to get it? Yeah, when you're ironic or you're making fun. And there was also work-life balance challenges that have to do, with the fact that maybe you have a family to support, or you're a working mom and you have 2 kids, and your husband Rajesh is still back in Mumbai because he hasn't found a job yet in Germany, and you don't have family here. So these are the typical pain points. Now, when we prototype the avatar journey map, we go through the steps, and then I just simplified it for you for today. Few things you can do in these 4 phases, the decide, the onboard, perform, and develop phase. During the decide phase, you can check the contract templates and add a clause so that expats can opt out and return to their home country at the company's cost. That would be a good thing to do. You could provide a pre-hire assessment for the expat spouse to help them understand their chances of finding work in the host location. You could also provide a budget with service provisions instead of a lump sum. I call that a box of chocolates approach. And you can pay for their travel to the host location and include the family in the package. In the onboard phase, make sure that there is support with the immigration process. That's really key. Clarify the role profiles for the expats. What is the role? What are the expectations? Explain the complexity of moving to another country for work. Then I think it's also important that you emphasize that the expat partner is part of the deal and not a personal matter. You show the complexity of the school system and language barriers for the kids. Then you also need to make sure that your new hires get a pickup from the airport or train station. Ensure their safety, especially for female hires like Aisha. Make sure that they're safe when they arrive. Organize a corporate apartment for the first 90 days, especially in those dense cities like Berlin, Düsseldorf, Frankfurt, and Munich, where it's really hard to find an apartment. Then pay for relocation service to help them find an apartment and deal with the authorities. Invest some time in building a good relationship with your new hires, even if this falls outside your work hours. And have an onboarding transition plan ready with small steps and learning interventions. Give them some admin and relocation support, at least in the first 90 days. Then in the perform phase, organize intercultural training or coaching within the first 6 months. Set up spouse career support coaching to help the spouse find a job. Help them integrate at work with events, for example. Then the first paycheck, you will need to explain the paycheck because paychecks look different in every country. Yeah, what are the social security deductions, for example? What are they for? How does it work with the health insurance, etc.? Set goals and measure performance. And before giving performance feedback, your line managers should be trained and coached on different feedback styles. So maybe they learn to provide feedback in a bit more face-saving way. Yeah, so you can contact me. I'm an expert for that topic. Develop in the develop phase. So after the first year, check in with them, see how happy they are. Offer some in-house training. Also, some career and leadership development coaching could be helpful. And regularly monitor the retention data for your international hires and ask them what it takes so that they will stay with you, because at the end of the day, you want to retain them. I think, Diana, correct me, but I think we're at the 30-minute mark.
Yes,
so
there's 1 minute left.
I want to just say global mobility coaching is not an established term yet. We're working on establishing the term. What you probably have heard of is digital coaching, intercultural coaching, career transition coaching, expat coaching, and business coaching. We do all of that. Yeah, so we're in everything that we do, you can include the other areas of coaching. And this is important. And I want to just say that we have different ways of offering coaching, which, we can discuss with you. I'm on a mission to bring the human touch back into global mobility since 2010. My name is Angela Weinberger. I was named after Angela Davis. I like hiking and I like my food extra spicy. And now, if you want to ask us any questions, I hope we still get a bit of time because we also started a bit late. Then I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, nobody's entered any questions in the chat, but we've gotten some thumbs up along the way.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to take yourself off mute or write something in the chat.
Should I stop the recording?
Yes, let's go ahead and stop the recording.